Good morning, everyone. Good Tov, Shvat Tov. We learn Mishna Yoma, Parak Gimel, Chapter 3, Mishnah Yud, Mishnah 10. Previous Mishnah talked about certain innovations that were done in the Beis HaMikdash, that the Chacham, the sages, praised the people for it. And I would continue with further examples of that, meaning not related to Yom Kippur, but just related to the people who made these innovations, and the Chacham are very happy with it. Ben Katan, there was a Kohen Gadol who was known as Ben Katan. Also, Shneim Asar Dad L'Kiyar. He made 12 faucets for the Kiyar. The Kiyar, as we mentioned previously, was a laver, a large basin of water that the Kohanim would wash their hands and feet from before doing the avodah, before doing the service. And basically, it used to be that there was only 2 faucets to the kiyar, and he instituted, that until then, there was only 2 faucets for them. He made it, they should have 12. Why 12? Because daily, after the second lottery was drawn for who did which services, you had 12 Kohanim that had to do service. Instead of them all waiting online for the other ones to take care of it, they could all do it at the same time. The commentaries point out that although there were 13 people involved in that second lottery, we count 12 because one of the things that the lottery included was the shechita, the slaughtering of the daily morning service. The slaughtering did not have to be done by a kohen, and therefore whoever did the slaughtering did not have to wash their hands and feet before doing it. So therefore, 12 faucets was enough so that all those people who are ready to do the service can wash right away. That was the first thing that he initiated regarding the kiyar. And the next thing was, v'afhu asa muchni lakiyar. He made a muchni. They described it as a device for lowering the kiyar. And it was made to lower the kiyar, this wash bait, this vessel that held all this water. It was made to lower the kiyar, shloyiyu meimav nifsalan belina, so that its water would not become invalidated by staying overnight. Now, the point was to lower the kiyar into a well. There was a well in the area of the Beis HaMikdash, and that was natural water. The point of lowering the kiyar into that water was that if the water in the kiyar and that water would connect, so the water in the kiyar was considered attached to a natural source. And that prevented it from being disqualified with something called lina, staying overnight. Now let me read to you from the notes here how they explain this. When an item that is fit to be offered on the altar, for example, water, meat, or flour, is put in a sacred vessel for the sake of a temple service, the item itself becomes sacred. As such, it becomes subject to a number of laws, including the law of lina, staying overnight, which states that if a sacred item is left overnight, may no longer be offered on the altar or used for whatever it's going to be used for. Therefore, water that remained overnight in the kiyar, which is a sacred vessel, cannot be used the next morning. Now, again, you're not using it on the altar; you're using it to wash the feet. But basically, anything that would be invalidated to be put on the altar because it was overnight can't be used for anything once it's sanctified. To prevent this, Ben Katan made a wheel that lowered the kiyar into a well at the end of the day, so that its water would merge with the water of the ground and thereby lose its separate identity. And it was now part of the water on the ground. When the kiyar was brought up again, it contained new water, which had not become disqualified through lina. Apparently, it was much easier to do this than to have to change the water every day. And therefore, by lowering it into this natural well, and like it says, the groundwater and this water merge together, the water in the kiyar is no more the water in the kiyar. It's groundwater. It's groundwater. That means the next day when you raise it up, it's considered new water again. And therefore, that prevented any kind of invalidation of lina. Okay, so that is the second thing those are the two things Ben Katan did, which and the Mishna is going to say at the end that he was praised for it. Next, Munbaz HaMelech. there was a king of the Jewish people during the second Beis Hamikdash in the second temple. His name was Munbaz. Made all the handles of the vessels used on Yom Kippur, they should be made from gold. What does this mean? It means like this. I'm going to read it again from the notes. This refers to utensils that could not themselves be made of gold, such as knives, since gold is too soft for cutting, but their handles could be made of gold. Whatever vessels that were used on Yom Kippur that couldn't be made of gold, that were not made of gold itself, and couldn't be made of gold itself, he made the handles out of it. He made the handles for that out of gold, and apparently that was being done for the purposes of honoring Yom Kippur. So that's what he did. Next, Hilni Imai, his mother, who is known as Queen Hilni, or as they translate as Helene, As's son Nivresha Shalzav al Pischai Shal Heichal. She made a Nivreshes, which they translate as a golden candle. She made a candelabra of gold that was placed at the entrance of the Heichal, the sanctuary. The Heichal was the building of the Beis Hamikdash. So at the opening of it, she made this candelabra. Very nice, right? So they explain here like this. The candelabra was positioned in such a way that when it was hit by sunlight in the morning, sparkles of reflected light radiated from it. And everyone would know that the time for reciting the Shema had arrived. That's what this did. That's what this candelabra accomplished. Okay. Another thing that Hilni Hamalka did, the Queen Hilni did. Va'avhi asasa tabla shalzav. She made a golden tablet. Sheparashas Sota Ksuva Aleha. That the Parsha of Sota was written on it. Now, Sota is a situation like this. The Torah says that if a husband warns his wife not to be alone with a particular man, and she does so anyway, they must separate. They're forbidden from each other. If she insists that she is innocent and they do not want to separate, the husband must take her to the Beis Hamikdash, where she swears that she did not sin. The words of the oath which appear in the book of Bamidbar, the book of Numbers, are written on parchment. The writing, this is how the halacha says it's done. This is how we know it's done. That oath that she said is written on the parchment. The writing is erased in sacred water mixed with earth from the temple floor. She drinks the water which would miraculously prove her guilt or innocence. To avoid the need to bring a Sefer Torah from which to copy the oath, meaning if you follow the way it's typically done, you had to bring a Sefer Torah, copy from the Sefer Torah onto the parchment, and then erase the parchment. What Hilni Hamalka did was, it was no more necessary to have to bring a Sefer Torah to copy the oath from, because she donated a tablet containing the text. The tablet hung on the wall of the sanctuary, and the temple scribe copied from it. And apparently she made it out of gold and brought it to the Beis Hamikdash. But she was doing this in order not to have to bring a Sefer Torah to have to copy from, which was an act of honor for a Sefer Torah, for a Torah scroll. Okay, so that's the second thing that she did. And the last thing mentioned is Nicanor Nasu Nisimodal Seisav. There was a man named Nicanor, and miracles were done for his doors. What's the background behind that? So again, the ship was battered. He basically, Nicanor went to Alexandria, which was in Egypt, to bring specially made doors for the Beis Hamikdash courtyard. That's what he went out to do. And as they were coming back from Egypt, the ship was battered by a severe storm. And the sailors threw one of the doors overboard to lighten its load. They wanted to throw the other door into the sea, but Nicanor insisted that they throw him together with it. At that very moment, the storm abated. When they reached the port of Akko in Eretz Yisrael, the first door floated up from under the ship. The doors were installed in the eastern gate of the temple courtyard. Eastern gate, those were the doors were installed, which became known as Nicanor's gate. That's why the eastern gate became known. That's why this gate became known. The eastern gate became known as Nicanor's gate. So the story behind Nicanor is all the self-sacrifice that he made. First of all, the fact that he wanted to bring these specially made doors out of the Beis Hamikdash and everything that he went through for it. He even had miracles occurred for him. And the Mishnah concludes, and all the people that we just mentioned. It's the Mishnah reads, and they would mention him for praise, which you could sound like this is going on Nicanor, the last example given. But the commentaries say that no, it's going on each and every person mentioned. Each person that we just mentioned were mentioned by the sages that they were worthy of praise for their contributions to the Beis Hamikdash. Have a wonderful day.